Hi, my name is Vahan from Istanbul, and I'm shooting this video from wonderful view of Istanbul. And in this video I'm going to talk about how did I became Christian. I can say my story with Jesus from my perspective started when I was 20. But if we go to my childhood, because my name is Vahan, I'm coming from a traditional Christian family. So in my ID card, Christianity was written. In our country at those days, our religion was written in our ID, and I was calling myself a Christian. So my family was taking me to the church in special days like Easter, like Christmas, or time to time, just maybe a few times in a year. My father was calling himself as a Christian, my mom was calling herself as Christian, but our relationship with Jesus was no more than a few times visit to church. But one thing I remember from my childhood is my father teach me the prayer of Jesus. You know, Jesus taught us how to pray, and every night before I sleep I was praying Lord's Prayer every night. But who is Jesus? What is he doing? What he thinks about me? Who is God? Where is he? I didn't have any idea. I wasn't even thinking about it. So just I was living my life as I'm God of my life. I even didn't know he is interested with me. Probably in my heart and in my mind, God was kind of a creator of a system. He created the world and universe, and then he let it happen whatever system leads. So he was from far, he was watching, he was smiling, or I wasn't even thinking about God at those days. But I remember when I was 16, maybe 17, I started to question about my faith. I was thinking, I'm calling myself as a Christian, but what is Christianity? Am I really Christian? Well, as you know, at those ages, people doesn't go so deep. So I didn't went so deep, but I was a little bit curious about who am I? And when I became 18, I decided to question my faith, which now I can see there wasn't a faith. But I started to think about God. So where is he? Some people were talking about it. So I wanted to learn. I wanted to try to read Bible, but actually it was a boring book for me at those days. No pictures, there were stories. I wasn't seeing any connection, and I was trying to find some people that I can ask some questions, but usually my questions wasn't answered. So I decided to research other faiths like Islam faith, because I'm living in Turkey. It's 99.9 Muslim country. So I tried to read that book with the courage of my friend. I tried to read, it didn't work. I tried to ask some questions, but I couldn't find people. Anyway, but when I was 19, in my heart, I was knowing, even if there is God, we don't have any relationship. We cannot have any relationship because of lifestyle that I was living. It wasn't honoring God. I wouldn't think he would interest with me. But also, if I go to my childhood and family, what kind of a family I had, I, I'm I'm kind of a lucky and blessed person. So my dad loved his family, my mom loved her family. So we were growing with love, I would say. We never thought, oh, our parents are not loving us. But there was a problem. Uh, there was always argues in my home between my mom and dad. They were not bad person, they were really good person, but they grown up in different cultures. My father grown up in Middle East, my mom grown up in Germany with German discipline. And you know, they were loving each other, but I'm not sure really did they know how to love each other. Well, I can say they were loving each other. We could see it when everything was okay. They were enjoying together. But when the hard topics comes, they were arguing almost all the time. Like many of the families in Middle East. They were loving each other, but they didn't know how to show that love, how to communicate with love. So I would say when I was 19, I was pretty aggressive man like my parents. So easily the things were coming out and I was getting angry. I was just pretty known in my friends, pretty known as a aggressive person. So I was 19. In my mind, there was, even if there is God, He wasn't interested with us, and I was living my life. But at those days, I remember my mom came to our house and said this. I remember, I met with a man, he will change our lives. And my dad and us, we said, who is he? And mom said, he's Jesus. Of course, it was funny thing. I just laughed. Ah, that Jesus, that religious guy, etc. So my mom started to attend the church and started to attend Bible studies. Also, Bible studies started at my house. And interestingly, my dad followed my mom. They started the Bible studies together. They started to pray together. Then my brother, 5 years old, younger than me, then my sister. So it was interesting. So I was kind of a guy. I would say I wasn't a guy who was in depression. I had many friends. I was a social boy. I was going out after work. Every time I had different friends, hundreds of friends. I was laughing. But I remember when I was alone at home or somewhere else, I was feeling a deep emptiness in my heart. So I was questioning, what is the reason that I'm living? Why I'm here? Why I'm in this world? Life every day, morning, go to work, then come from work, eat something, go out. Every day was same, but it was seeing from me, it was like meaningless. There was no meaning in the life. And this deep thought was almost every day when I was alone, it was coming. Even with my friends, we were 20 people in the same table. We were laughing, talking about soccer, different things, etc. But in my heart, I was thinking, none of these people understands me because they don't question their reason of life, the world. So they don't understand me. So inside of my heart, there was kind of lonely spirit or soul, I would say. My soul was seeking a meaning for this life, a reason for this life. To be honest, at those days, I liked driving and I was driving really fast. And I remember some days I was really driving too fast. In my heart, in my mind, I was thinking, maybe I can make an accident, I can die because there is no reason in this life. There is no purpose in this life. I can die, but actually, suicide idea wasn't a good idea for me because my pride wasn't allowing me to suicide. So making an accident, dying in an accident was looking more fancy from my side. I wasn't in depression, but I had two faces. One face, social, with people laughing, like socializing everywhere. But my other face was alone and trying to find a reason, find a purpose in a life. Anyway, at those days, I mean, I didn't recognize that those days, but I can see it from now. Somehow, because my normal routine was I was going work, I was going out from work, meeting with friends, coming very late at home, sometimes not coming. But at those days, I remember somehow after work, there was a desire to go home after work. And I remember the conversations. My friend was saying, hey, Wahan, what happened to you? Why are you going home? And I said, I don't know. I just wanted to go home. From now, I can see that probably the reason was atmosphere of my house was changed at those days. There was peace because there was no argues anymore, no fights anymore. Even when I argue with my dad, normally he yells on me, I was yelling and but at those days, somehow, when we started to disagree, my father was saying, okay, I will pray for you. And with my mom, they were going to another room and they were praying for me. This was weird, because the things were inside. So I was expecting He will yell on me, then I will pour out my heart, all the things that I saved, all the bad words that I saved. Which I'm not saying those with pride. I feel shame today. But actually, in the middle of it, my dad was saying, okay, I'll pray for you. It was weird, it was awkward, but I can say there was peace at those days. So somehow, I found I'm listening to Bible studies at the living room. They were doing with a group, they were small group, they were doing Bible studies, and I was listening, and some topics were coming. They were reading a scripture and a passage, and I was listening, and it was coming weird. I started to read Bible, and I found some interesting and weird points. For example, I remember I stuck on a story. Jesus was telling a story. He was saying he went to a fig tree. He went early, and because he didn't see a fruit, he cursed the tree. So in my mind, because the Bible study group members were saying Jesus is God. So in my mind, probably Jesus designed the fig tree's program, software, I would say. But in this software, let's say he decided that fig tree will give fruit at July, but he went on May. So he couldn't find fruit, then he cursed the tree. In my mind, is he crazy? Because it's not tree's fault, it's his fault. So these kind of 2 or 3 stories was sticking in my mind. Okay, maybe I may believe because I can see a change in my house. Maybe I may believe, but I need to find these answers. Well, one of the most stupid things that I did at those times, I tried to understand everything about Bible before I became a believer. But today, I see it's not the best way. Sometimes you need to go in and you need to see from in. But I was just young. But I saw my house was changing. My mom and dad was changing. And I visited church, and sermons was good, really, taking my attention. And when I read the Bible, I found this Jesus is a good guy, and it seems he is still living. He is not a dead prophet. I said, maybe I can follow him. Because the character that I found in the Bible was one of the best leaders I've met, I've seen, I've read about. I said, okay, Jesus, if that's you, I want to be your soldier. I want to live a life like a soldier. I want to follow you. I want to do whatever you want. And I prayed with my mom that in a few months, something started to change in my life. Some things, like I started to go to church, I started to pray, but also I could see still I had 2 faces. One, happy, socialized, going to church, but when I was alone, still I was feeling no purpose in life. Okay, Jesus is good, but still I couldn't find my place in Jesus. So I was feeling like awkward, like double-sided life. One day, at those days, I was writing poems to explain my loneliness and explain the deep darkness in this life, because no meaning, no purpose. One day, I came home, it was 9 or 10, and this 2 faces was always killing me. I felt like it's like coming from everywhere, no purpose, no reason why I'm here. If there is God, why I don't see Him? What is happening in my mom's and dad's life? Why they are not happening in my life, etc. So that night I decided, okay, a letter. A few months when I prayed to Jesus, somebody from church gave me a letter. The letter was starting like Father's love letter. So they took verses in the letter, like God loves you, He knows how many hairs you have, He knows everything about you, He loves you, He died for you, etc. Tons of verses from part by part. In my mind, I was thinking to manipulate people, those people cut the verses from Bible and they just made a letter. But in my mind, I wasn't a stupid person. I was smart. So I thought God cannot love any of us like this. He cannot love me like this. So today, this night, I will prove This letter is a manipulation letter. God cannot love me like this. So in my mind, they took the verses without context. So I decided, okay, I will take the verses and I will check the context. I will go to the book, find every verse, check the context, and morning I will prove that, you see, this letter is a false letter. God cannot love us like this. First verse, it was coming from, if I'm not wrong, I will add the letter in description. It was from Psalm 139, first verse. It was talking about God's love. I checked the Bible, and yes, it was right. Then another verse, then another verse. Every verse somehow I remember, because I wasn't reading Bible all the time, but that day, whenever I opened the page, exactly the almost the same page was coming, or very close somehow. So it was saying Esther, I was opening, oh, I'm in Esther. So it was saying Psalms, I was opening Psalms. So probably God was in the room with me that day. Anyway, I checked every verse, every verse. When I came the half of the letter, my heart was heavier than it should be. It was like a rock. It was like I was feeling something was happening in my heart. The other difference was, when I was reading Bible before, it was speaking to my ears. But when I was reading Bible verses at that night, I was feeling like there was God in the room and He was saying the verses, not to my ears, but to my heart. It was like digging into my heart, going in my heart. And then I started to cry. I didn't know why. I was reading, studying, and crying. My tears was coming out. I was trying to stop it because I was feeling shame. Because in Middle East, they say man doesn't cry. So I was feeling, why I'm crying like this, like a baby. But I continued to study, read the verses, etc. But when I was reading verses more and more, something was moving stronger in my heart, in my soul. Something was happening. The final result, I think it was 5 a.m. at the morning. I was at the ground and I was repeating this verse, Jesus, come and take my life. Jesus, come and take my life. Jesus, I want to be your son. I want to live as your son. Just be my father. Please, I want to live my whole life with you. Please. I was repeating. It was like, okay, being his soldier was a good and prideful idea, but that morning, 5:30, I was experiencing being son of God, being loved by God. That morning, my whole life didn't change. So it's still a process, as you know, it's a process. But I was a new person that morning. I remember all darkness covering me was gone. Something like a smiling baby was inside of my heart, my soul. Even the sunshine was different, street was different. My mom, I was seeing my mom and my dad and my brother, sister, everything in my life, I was seeing them different. That morning, Jesus made me a new person. Another difference that morning, somehow, that morning, 5:30, I was feeling I found the purpose of this life. I found the reason of why I'm here. I found a reason to continue to live for His kingdom. I found a reason to love Him because I was feeling loved by the King of Universe. Very funny, those poems which became famous at those days, and speaking about the darkness, the meaningless of life, no purpose in life, they were making me popular a little bit. So I tried to write more, but I couldn't, because source was gone that morning. That darkness, that life without a meaning, without a purpose feeling was gone. That morning, I was a man with a purpose to live. So this is my story. Like you and I and all of us, we all have different stories. I hope this story will be a blessing to you. Well, this is my story. Thanks for listening this. I hope this story will bless your day today. Thanks for watching. If you like this video, you can click to like, you can subscribe to channel, then YouTube will notice you if there is a new video. Thank you. God bless you all.